We've all seen this image, right? The classic double helix of DNA, and we're taught to think of it as a biological program, the set of instructions that builds our bodies. But what if it's more than that? What if hidden inside this tiny molecule, there's a much deeper, more profound meaning? Let's take a look.
And really, that's the big question we're diving into today. Are we just looking at a complex chemical, or could our DNA actually be a kind of bridge, something that connects our deepest self to the universe at large?
You know, the idea behind this whole explainer isn't just some dry academic thing. It comes from a real, heartfelt place, this desire to guide the spiritual part of us toward the spiritual that's out there, in the universe. It's a quest for understanding our true place in the cosmos. So how do we even begin to look at it this way? Well, we're going to use a particular lens called spiritual science. The basic idea is simple but powerful, that the physical world we see, right down to our very molecules, is actually an expression of deeper spiritual forces and truths. Okay, so to really get into this, to decode DNA's hidden message, we have to step back from modern biology for just a second. We need a different framework, one that's rooted in ancient wisdom, which sees all of life through the lens of 4 fundamental cosmic elements. And they are the big 4. Earth, which gives us our physical structure, our form. Water, which governs life, flow, and rhythm. Then there's air, which is connected to our consciousness, our feelings. And finally, fire. This is the real spark, the spirit of transformation, what the source material calls our true self, or yo. These 4 elements, they're the key to this whole thing. All right, so we've got our key. Now let's take this ancient framework and hold it up against that familiar double helix. You're about to see how these cosmic forces might just map directly onto the very structure of our DNA. So look at the helix itself. You can almost see 2 of these elements right away. That strong, stable sugar phosphate backbone, that's the scaffolding, right? Rock solid. That's the principle of Earth. But what about the rungs of the ladder? Those hydrogen bonds, they're not static. They're constantly unzipping and rezipping for replication. That's a dynamic, rhythmic flow, the principle of water. So we've talked about the structure. You could say that's the paper and the binding of the book. But now, what about the words written inside? Let's look at the 4 nitrogenous bases that make up the actual alphabet of our genetic code. This is where it gets really cool. The 4 bases fall into 2 distinct camps that line up perfectly with our last 2 elements. You've got the purines, adenine and guanine. Think of them as the expansive, energetic principle of fire. And then you have their partners, the pyrimidians, cytosine and thymine. They represent the principle of air, but manifesting as light, the force of pure information, of clarity, of giving things form. And this is why their pairing is so incredible. It's not just a random chemical rule that a purine always pairs with a pyrimidine. In this view, it's this perfect harmonious balance, a spiritual marriage, if you will, between the raw energy of fire and the ordering intelligence of light. And here it is. This is where it all clicks into place. You see how it all lines up? Earth provides the solid, durable backbone. Water governs the rhythmic, harmonious flow. Fire gives us that transformative energy through the purines, and air, manifesting as light, provides the clear ordering information in the pyrimidians. It's like a complete cosmos all packed into this one tiny molecule. 64. Okay, now I want you to just look at this number for a second. It seems kind of random, right? Well, it's not. Not at all. In biology, 64 is the total number of 3-letter words, they're called codons, that our genetic alphabet can make. It is the entire vocabulary for the language of life. But get this, here is the mind-blowing part. 64 is also the exact number of hexagrams in the ancient Chinese Book of Wisdom, the I Ching, a book that maps out the fundamental archetypal patterns of life and the entire universe. So, what do you do with that? Is that just a wild coincidence? Or could it be pointing to something much deeper? The idea that our very DNA speaks a universal, archetypal language, one that wisdom traditions have understood for thousands of years. And that's really the heart of it. The idea that our genetic code can be seen as a living I Ching. Each of those 64 codons isn't just a chemical instruction, it's a unique vibrational pattern. an archetypal principle that's actively shaping our existence.
And it goes even deeper. If the codons are the words, what are the amino acids they build? Well, think of them as the meaning behind the words. Each one is said to carry a subtle spiritual quality. For instance, maybe codons that are heavy with fire energy build an amino acid that embodies truth, or a mix of light and water might manifest as beauty or harmony. And the proteins? They become these incredibly complex spiritual narratives built from these fundamental virtues.
Wow. Okay, so after all that, these huge cosmic ideas, let's bring it right back down to Earth, right back to you. What does this all mean for us, personally, in our own lives?
Well, this view reframes everything, even something as familiar as the sun. The sun isn't just a ball of gas anymore. It's the spiritual heart of our system, the source of those very forces of light and warmth, or you could say fire and light that are literally woven into the fabric of our being.
And this points to what you could call our ultimate purpose. The source material puts it beautifully, that we are called to become like the sun itself, to be luminous beings, brilliant, to be children of the sun, embodying that same light and warmth that's encoded right in our cells. So I want to leave you with this thought. If your DNA is more than just a chemical program, if it's really a cosmic story woven from starlight and spirit, a living language of archetypes, then what is the story it's trying to tell through you? What is it asking you to become?